All right, welcome everyone. My name is Coach David, and I am here with College Admission Secrets, and also with Ivy League Admission Secrets to bring you guys today's training. Okay. Now, a lot of our seniors have applied early action, early decision, right? A lot of them are asking, what now? We've actually had a lot of students, reach out to us about their early action decision, early action or early decision kind of results. And so we wanted to make sure that people understood what they should be doing at this juncture to make sure that they are taking full advantage of everything that they can. Okay. Now, but before we jump in, I want to make sure that we introduce the host. I know I have been absent for a while. I have been absent because I was taking care of our seniors. Okay. So just a little bit of a refresher on me, right? I went to the Claremont colleges in Southern California. I studied political science and then went off to law school. Okay. I am a former lawyer. Okay. I don't practice anymore. I'm helping our students make, their college dreams a reality. Okay. I've also been working with families on financial aid for the past 15 years, going on 16 years after the new year. Okay. And I've had students accepted to all the Ivies and Ivy Plus schools, right? And I'm ready to help your students succeed. Now, my co-host, Coach Tony, you guys all know him, right? He is sick right now, so prayers out to him. Make sure that he is, getting better soon. But he went to Berkeley, right? He worked as an admissions reader. He also founded his own charter high school, right? Was a partner at Magoosh Test Prep, and also was TikTok's first educational partner, right? He's been doing this just as long as me for the past 15 years. Okay. So I want to talk, about our Ivy and our Ivy League success stories, right? These are our stories from last year, right? We had a student at Caltech. We had a student in at Rice, student in at Emory, right? Student at Stanford, right? We have a student in at Columbia, Cornell, and Berkeley, right? And now we have gotten our first Ivy League results from this year. Now, most Ivy Leagues are coming out a little bit later this year, probably closer to the 19th or 20th. But our student got their letter today. Okay. Our student got into Cornell early decision. Okay. They got into College of Arts and Sciences. They are going to be studying neuroscience. Okay. So this student, right, was over the moon, right? We can help your student too. But, right, this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about early action and early decision notifications, right? What to do if you get in, what to do if you don't, and what to do if you're deferred. Okay. So before we get there, I want to have a quick word, right? Because there are a lot of families out there that are like, oh, yeah, my kid, if they get into a great school, yeah, we're going to send them, but we're going to go into debt, right? So one of the things that we want to make sure that families are doing is getting the proper financial aid advice. Okay. So there's probably no one out there that wants to pay full price for college, right? If you do not, you need to sign up for a consultation. We will have a phone number that you can text later at the end of our training to make sure that you do get the money that you guys deserve. Okay. So if you think that you make too much money, if you think that, oh, well, we own our house, we're not going to get anything, you are the one that I need to talk to, right? So stick around for the consultation link at the end. Okay. But let's get back to our training for today. So let's talk about early action and early decision. Now, there are some families out there that understand this very clearly because they've had, students go through it before. But early action, early decision, it's changed over the past decade or so, and there's a lot of new terms in there that you might not understand. So we're going to do a quick overview of early action and early decision. Okay, so there are different types of early admissions processes. I'm going to go through all of them, right? And then I will kind of describe each one to you. Okay, early action, right? This is the one that is the least restrictive, right? Early action, you apply early, October 15th, November 1st, and you get a decision back late December, right? However, even if you are accepted, you do not have to make a decision until May 1st about where you want to go. So, a lot of students that are kind of like, yes, I really do like this school, but I'm waiting on something else, right? A lot of our students did this. They applied to USC early action. And then they're going to wait until they see their UC results to decide where they're going to go, right? So that is an example of early action. Okay. Now, in between those two things, you have something called restrictive early action or single choice early action. Okay. Now, this type of early admissions process is when you apply, you are allowed to apply to one school, restrictive early action or single choice early action, just like above, right? So by October 15th or November 1st, right? And if you get in, you do not have to make a decision about where you're going until May 1st, right? But there are restrictions on where else you can apply. Usually for restrictive early action or single choice early action, you are not allowed to apply anywhere early decision. You are also not allowed to apply anywhere early action. So that's why it is single choice. That's why it is restrictive. Okay. You do not have to attend this school, but you can't apply anywhere else. A very simple example in California is like Stanford. Now, Stanford is a little bit funky because they have made one exception. Okay. So Stanford, if you're applying to Stanford restrictive early action, which is what they have, you're not allowed to apply to any other school early decision. Okay. But you are allowed to apply to USC early action. That is the only exception that they give, right? It is right on their website. Okay. And then finally, you have early decision. Okay. This is the most kind of like like the early admissions process that has the most consequences. Okay. You apply early, October 15th, November 1st, and you get a decision by late December. Okay. Unlike early action or restrictive early action or single choice early action, early decision means you're obligated to go to that school. They usually give you 3 to 5 days to accept and turn in your deposit. Okay. The deposit is usually pretty hefty, somewhere in the $500 to $1,000 range, right? Now, if you are applying early decision and you did apply early decision, please remember, right? You made a commitment to this school, right? And they're making a commitment to you. If you do get in, it is something that you basically everyone signed a contract. The student, the parent, the high school counselor even signed a contract to this effect. Okay. So going over the different types, you have early action. It's not binding. It's kind of very free flowing. You can kind of do as many as you want, right? And you can choose later in May, right? You also have restrictive early action. You have single choice early action. Again, it is unrestricted in kind of like you being allowed to wait until May 1st, but the types of early that you can do are restricted. And then early decision, it is something that you commit to. Okay. So those are the kind of 3 or 4 different types of early admissions processes that you can go through. Okay. Now, here are the possible outcomes of your early admission, all right, process. You could be accepted, right? If you're accepted, great, right? Awesome. Congratulations, right? Especially if you were accepted early decision, that was probably your number one choice school, right? You need to make sure to turn in your deposit and turn in your forms. Okay. If you were accepted somewhere early action or restrictive early action or single choice early action, that is great too, right? And well, that means that you have something in your back pocket, right? That you can wait on to see if there's any other schools that you're more fond of that you are going to choose later on. Okay. But this one is the best, right? Now, there's another one. You could be rejected. Okay. It's okay. It wasn't the right match, right? Forget about it. Keep pushing with your other applications. Make sure that they get in, right? Literally, there are thousands of colleges in the United States, right? In the course of your student's life, this rejection is going to be a blip, right? Like that. It's done, right? It's not going to be something that's remembered 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line. Okay. So move on, right? I know it's hard sometimes. You see other people getting accepted, right? You don't, right? And there is a little bit of mental anguish there. But again, there are other schools that you are applying to, right? And then third, right? You could be deferred, right? Here's what I want to tell students that have been deferred. This is not a rejection. It means they want to take another look at you during the regular decision round, right? And there's actually a large percentage of students admitted during the regular decision round from the deferred pile. So I don't want anyone to lose hope, right? And right now, we're going to be talking about what you should do if you are deferred, okay? So again, what to do if you were deferred, okay? So there's a lot of information here. I'm going to try to get through it all, right? Again, this replay will be available. So if you guys do need this replay, if you're one of our families, it'll be posted on our private YouTube channel in a couple days. If you're one of our Facebook, Facebook families, we will make a post about it so that you can kind of ask for this replay. Okay. So the first thing that you need to do is understand your deferral. Okay. You need to make sure to read your deferral letter carefully, right? Most schools tell us exactly what they want you to do and what they don't want you to do. So you need to read the instructions, okay? One of the biggest pieces to any part of the college admissions process is reading the instructions, reading the question, reading what they want, okay? And a lot of people don't do that and they find themselves in a little bit of a pickle, okay? You need to remember that some of them want you to contact them and some do not. right? It is not up to your whim to send something, okay? So, one of the kind of takeaways I'm going to have later is that you need to avoid over communicating, okay? If a school says, we don't want any additional information from you, do not send them a 4-page letter telling them why you're the perfect fit. Do not have your teacher send an additional letter of recommendation. These are things that they explicitly told you not to do. If you do them, how do you think that reflects on you respecting their institution? It probably shows that you don't respect their institution, right? If they do ask you to add things like a letter or recommendation, etc., you need to make sure to get on that right away. You don't want to sit on your hands for this one. Okay. The the next thing that kind of is like a piece of it after you get your kind of deferral letter is reaffirming your interest, right? A lot of colleges ask for a letter of continued interest, right? So you want to make sure that you show your enthusiasm for that school. Tell them why it's your top choice, right? Update them on new achievements, activities, awards. Make sure that they understand why this particular college aligns with your major and career goals, right? You need to be genuine, right? Just saying, oh my God, you guys are my top choice is not enough. You need to show them through examples. Okay. Now, the other thing is this. There's a lot of students that say, oh, I got deferred. Should I write a letter of continued interest? They ask for one, right? If they ask for a letter, why wouldn't you write it? Right? What do you think they're going to think? Right? It's kind of like if you have a girlfriend and they write you a letter and they say, can you write me one back? And then you're kind of like, maybe. I'll think about it. Right? No, you should write one back right away. Okay. So if they do ask for one, this is not an optional thing, right? It is something that needs to get done. Okay. Now, submitting additional materials. I should have bolded this and put it in 60-point font, but it's only if allowed. Every year, I have students reach out to me, right? Whether they're in our program or in our Facebook, and like, yeah, so I got deferred here. Like, should I send in like, I have this like a photography portfolio that I didn't send in the first time. Should I send that to them? And the first question I ask is, did they say it's okay to send it? Right? And they're like, oh no, they didn't. They don't want us to send anything. Then you should not send anything. Okay. But if you are allowed, send updated transcripts, updated test scores, additional recommendation letters. Again, what is allowed, right? And if you are getting a rec letter, get it from someone that can show a different side of you, right? So if on the first round you sent in, two teachers and like, you sent in your football coach, maybe the next time, maybe if you have a part-time job, you ask your boss at work for an additional letter of recommendation. They want to see new things. They don't want to see things that have already been done in your application. Okay. And then portfolio updates, right? If you're an art student or this or that, you're probably still competing. You're probably still going to different things, right? So if there's an update to your portfolio, you definitely want to share that with them. Okay. This is a really important part. And it's not even just a really important part for seniors that are deferred from their early action or decision schools, but it's for all seniors. Okay. So I'm going to make this very clear. Seniors, you need to make sure you're staying up on your academics, right? But if you are being deferred from your early action or early decision, it's even more important, right? Because now more than ever, your academics are going to play a bigger role. Okay. Part of the reason why a lot of colleges defer or kind of like push you to the regular decision pool is because they weren't 100% sure about your academics that you showed them all the way up into junior year. They want to make sure that in your senior year that you are keeping that trend of where you were before. Okay. So you cannot get senioritis. Senioritis is not a word that should be in the dictionary, but for some reason it is. Okay. And for a lot of seniors to kind of like, oh, yes, applications are done. I'm going to coast, right? If you do see a dip in your grades, you need to get your butt back in gear. They're going to be looking at your first semester grades, right? And then for the rest of the seniors, they will look at your final grades to see if there was a huge drop off from what you did previously. And at that point, at the end of the year, you've already committed yourself to a certain college, right? You've given them all the power. And then let's say that you were a straight A student and then you got straight C's your senior year. Do you think that they're going to look kindly at that? No, they might drop you like that. Okay. Because they have the power to do so if they feel like you're not the student that they at first chose. Okay. So senioritis, no. If you are in a situation where you're being deferred, you need to make sure that your first semester grades are better than ever. Okay. Here's the next piece. You need to continue applying. Life does not stop. The clock keeps ticking, right? And so your applications are still, the deadlines are still closing down on you. Okay. So, like I said, there are thousands of colleges, right? You need to find other opportunities, right? It's not your only option, and it never from the beginning should have been your only option. You need to make sure that there are other kind of colleges in play. Okay. Communicate and stay positive, right? Now, one of the points I made above was you need to avoid overwhelming the admissions office with excessive emails or materials, okay? Now, once you turn in your application, you're usually kind of given a kind of college counselor, right, at that school, okay? Sending them an email every single day in the morning saying, I hope you had a good night's sleep. Like, have you looked over my application again? Did you have your morning coffee? These things are not things you want to do, right? Strategic communication is important, right? So I say down here, right? If you're in contact with a counselor, ask for their advice about what can strengthen your application if there's things that can, right? You want to, again, maybe you check in with them, once a month, right? But you don't want to be sending them something every single week or being like, "Oh my God, I got another A on my math test. Oh, I got a, 50 out of 50 on my Spanish quiz." Like these aren't things that they need to know, right? They're looking at the bigger picture here, right? And finally, here's kind of like my biggest thing. Make sure that you're staying positive, right? Getting deferred is not the end of the world. It's actually a second chance, right? So please, please, please have your student look at that silver lining. Okay. Now, here are the takeaways or the summary of kind of what we went over right now. Okay. So first, you need to stay on top of communication, right? If there is a channel of communication, but you shouldn't be emailing the admissions office every other day, checking on your application and like where you are on the wait list or things like that, right? Make sure that you're following instructions. If they tell you to send something, send it. If they tell you not to send something, don't send it. Okay. Again, I'm trying to make this very clear. If they tell you to send it, you can send it and you should send it. Okay. If they tell you not to send it, under no circumstances should you be sending it. Okay. If they ask for a letter of continued interest, write it. If they tell you, please do not send us updates to your transcript, do not send it. Okay. So every school is going to be different. So you need to make sure on every single school. Okay. Make sure you provide information promptly. Okay. Do not just kind of like be like, okay, yeah, I'll get it in next week. I'll get it in next month. That's not how this works, right? The faster they're able to kind of look at your things, the faster they're able to make a decision, right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to give you a decision faster, right? But if they're able to kind of be like, yeah, okay, yeah, that looks good, and then say and like put you into the accepted pile, right? Because you turned in all your things, you know, quickly, then that's obviously better for you. Okay. Now, you also want to make sure that they know that you are still interested in their college, okay? If you have opportunities to talk to them, via email or chat or whatever it is, or on the phone, make sure that they know, right? Now, you don't want to be someone that's like, too kind of like kissing their butt, right? But just let them know that they are still, the top choice or that they're one of the top choices, okay? No senioritis. This cannot happen. Okay. Really, I have students every year, right? Within our program and not in our program that say, Coach David, I have an issue. And I'm like, what is the issue? Like, I just got a D in my English class, right? And I'm like, well, you're gonna have to sign up for an online English class and you need to finish it in 3 weeks, right? If you want to be in that situation, go ahead, be a little bit laissez-faire with your grades second semester, right? But my kind of thing is, well, you've worked so hard up until now. Why put a blemish on what you've done? Okay. So no senioritis, right? And then finally, stay positive and stay patient. Okay. The process takes as long as it's going to take. Okay. There's no way to make it go faster, right? Now, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was like in the hospital because I had this mystery infection in my bone, right? And I don't know how I got it. And I was in the ER a lot, right? And what I realized about the ER is that it doesn't matter how much I hoop and holler, right? It's going to take as long as it's going to take, right? So just relax, right? Make sure that you're checking your applicant portals if they're asking for any additional information, and then you should be good to go. Okay. Now, just like we do every time we have a training, this is an invitation for families to work with us, right? So I do see families that are in our coaching program here. I also see new families that are not in our coaching program. So I do want to make sure that you guys understand how we work and kind of what we provide and how we can help you, right? So our program looks like this, right? Obviously, if you are interested in booking with us, I will have a phone number. The phone number at the bottom is not the correct one, so don't text that one, right? So there are phone numbers at the end that I will give you, right? But we help with college selection, with career exploration, major strategy at different schools, right? Selecting your classes for your ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th grade years, community college classes, and outside course recommendations that can help you push you further, right? We also help with your activities, helping you launch a kind of personal project, and we even have a personal project incubator that Coach Tony runs that helps students kind of work on their projects, right? And we also have programs for research and internships that we're working on currently. Okay. Now, when it comes to the applications, we have unlimited application support, right? Unlimited essay revisions, right? Our families that are a part of our program can attest to that. We, if they turn in 20, 30, 40 different revisions, we're working on them, right? And we do have our kind of college kickstart and accelerator if you're interested in that as well, which will be in the summer of 2025. Okay. Now, our coaching program, we have a customized roadmap call. We have weekly and monthly check-in points. We have daily office hours, right? And our prices don't change. Doesn't matter if you start in ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, or 12th grade, it's all the same price. So the earlier, the better. Okay. Now, if you guys are interested in talking to us about our college admission secret coaching program or about our financial aid program, you can text 949-298-6234. And if you are interested in the college admission secrets, text college to them, right? If you're interested in booking a financial aid consultation, if you're 2025 and I haven't talked to you, or if you haven't signed up for our program, my question to you is why? You're just throwing money down the toilet. Okay. So if you do want to book either of those, text college or text FAFSA to 949-298-6234. Now, if you want to book it on your own, there are QR codes here. So you can use the QR code here, right, for either one to book on Calendly. But what I wanted to do now is actually open up the kind of the kind of training we're doing today so that I can answer families' questions, right? So again, I know that there's students and families that have gotten results. I know that there's still families that are waiting for results, right? So from either of the sides, right? And from other families as well, anything about college admissions or about financial aid, you guys can definitely ask here and I will be able to answer them. So you can put them in the Q&A or in the chat, and then I will be happy to answer, okay? But for those that need to kind of head off, thank you guys for spending a little time with us today, right? But I will go ahead and wait for some questions in the Q&A or in the chat. Okay. All right. So I have a question in the Q&A here. And the question is, does every college defer, or do they only accept or reject, or like kind of like what is the situation? Okay. Now, generally speaking, most colleges have those three outcomes that we talked about before. There's an acceptance, there's a reject, and then there is a defer, right? Now, again, there's always exceptions to the rule. The exception to the rule is Stanford. Stanford does not defer anybody, right? It's either accept or reject, right? And a lot of the kind of follow-up question to this is if you're rejected for early action or early decision, can you apply regular decision? The answer is no. Okay. You cannot, right? Because you've already been given a shot during that admission cycle. They're not going to give you another one. Okay. So just keep that in mind there. All right, we have another question. It says, my kiddo is a class of 2026. When is the best time to create a FAFSA and CSS account? So your CSS account should actually already be created. If they're a class of 2026, they probably took the PSAT this year. They needed to have a College Board account. Okay, so that's probably already created. It's actually a College Board account, right? And that will give you access to the CSS profile, right? As for the FAFSA, you don't need to do anything with it right now. You can actually do it later, right? Probably the summer of like the summer right before senior year, right? Because again, the year that is important for you is not open yet. Okay. But for the CSS profile, you already have a College Board account, so that should be ready to go. Okay. All right. So great questions. If there are other questions, I'll kind of wait around for a minute or two to kind of answer those questions. And then if I don't see anything, then I'll go ahead and kind of close down today's training. But again, if you guys are interested, make sure that you guys click on, like you guys take a picture of those QR codes, right? Take a screenshot of this page, right? Or text the phone numbers that are there. Okay. We have another question here. It says, how many schools should a student apply to? Oh, that's a very good question, right? So I will tell you like what an average student. I'm based in California. Most of our families are based in California, so I'll tell you what a California family usually applies to. They apply to the UCs, right? They apply to the CSUs. Already applying to the UCs and CSUs, you're already looking at about 10 or 12 different campuses that you're applying, right? And then on average, our students apply to anywhere between 8 and 12 private schools. So that brings the number up to about 25. Okay, so that's generally the number of individual colleges that a student is applying to. Our student that applied to the most last year applied to 43, right? Now, again, everyone's different and what they're going for is different, right? The student that applied to 43, he was a engineering student. So he wanted to make sure that he had enough options at that end of the day. So he spread everything very wide. Okay. That student eventually did end up choosing Berkeley, right? For electrical engineering and computer science, right? But that student is decided that, hey, I'm going to go through the extra work to make sure I have enough options at the end of the admission cycle, right? But generally speaking, 20, 25 is roughly the amount of colleges that the average modern student is applying to, right? Now, I understand that's very different than what kind of even I did, right? So I applied to the UCs and I applied to four private schools. That's all I applied to, right? But the college landscape has changed pretty significantly. Okay. All right. Thank you for that question. Okay, there's a follow-up here and it says, do most students apply knowing what they want to study and how does that impact their chance of being admitted? So for I'd probably say for I think this year actually I think it's 100%, right? So 100% of our students chose a major when they're applying, right? Now, most students have a direction that they want to go. Yeah, might it change later? Yes, definitely. It could change later. But, right? Um, Generally speaking, here is my 2 cents about choosing a major or going undecided or undeclared, right? Colleges ask you what you want to study, and if you tell them that you want to study undeclared, how are you going to write that essay? It's almost impossible, right? So it's something to kind of keep in mind, right? Now, as far as like chances of being admitted, yes, there are certain majors that are more competitive, right? Like computer science or engineering. But at a lot of schools like the UCs, if you don't get into that major as like when you're entering that school, switching to that major is never going to be possible anyway. So the question is, do you want to go to that school? Right? So are there colleges where major strategy or choosing a less competitive major will help you? Yes, of course there are. But at certain schools, you have to shoot for what you actually want. Okay. All right. We have another question that says, we are in your financial aid program. Are we still waiting for the system, waiting for others to test the system, or when should I expect a call from you for additional financial info requests like asset value? So if you're already part of our financial aid program, we will be working on kind of the financial aid. So there are some schools that need things early. So we'll be working on those schools. But everything should be done before the end of the weekend. Okay. So we've I've kind of watched enough to see that the FAFSA seems like it's actually working. Seems, right? But we'll kind of see what happens afterwards. As far as additional information, we might need that later, but currently right now we don't need it. Okay. We have another question here. It says, if 20 is max colleges allowed on Common App, how do you apply to 45 schools? Well, the Common App isn't the only application system, right? So, like I said, the UCs, I'm spreading them out, right? So the UCs, I usually count them as one, but there's 9 different campuses that you can apply to. That's why I call them individual colleges. So that's already 9 there. Let's say you apply to 2 or 3 or 4 CSU campuses. That's one application, but that's 4 separate campuses. So that's already 13, right? So those aren't on the Common App, right? And then if you add 20 schools on there, that's 13 plus 20, that's already 33 colleges that you're applying to, right? And then there's also something called the coalition application, which you can apply to another 20, right? So technically speaking, right, if you really wanted to max things out, right, you could apply to 9 UCs, 23 CSUs, that's already 32, and then another 20 on the Common App, which is that's 52, and then you could apply to another 20 on the Coalition, which is 72 applications. Okay. Now, do I suggest that for anybody? No, I do not, right? But again, if you are strategic with it, you can apply to 40, 50, 60 schools. Okay. All right. Any additional questions or concerns? Okay. I am not seeing any additional questions. So once again, if you are interested in our College Admission Secrets coaching program, please text college to 949-298-6234. If you're interested in booking a financial aid consultation, please text FAFSA to 949-298-6324. I'm going to leave this last page up for a while. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. It's great to have people in the audience that ask questions because that gives me a chance to talk with you guys and interact. I do love interacting with families, right? But I will leave this up so that you guys can take a picture of the QR codes or go ahead and get that phone number. Okay, so we will see you back here next week, Thursday, same time, 6 o'clock for another training. Hopefully, we'll have some more exciting news from our students at that point. And if you have any other additional questions, please reach out in the Discord if you're one of our coaching families, or reach out on Facebook, email, text message, whatever you can get a hold of us on for our families that are in Facebook. Okay. All right. It was great talking to you guys tonight. I will see you guys again soon. And, everyone have a great holiday season. Bye bye.